delegates in your county, it's winner take all. There is no proportional. If you got more than 5, there's a possibility of having a proportional. But if somebody gets 50% plus 1, it's winner take all wherever you are.
Well, a question on that, because my county has 5.
Okay.
Page 21, it says local caucus areas with fewer than 5 delegates must use the true majority scenario.
It's fewer than 5 then.
Okay.
So essentially 4, 3, 2.
Yeah, so 5 you can be proportional. So what we do is, you go into your groups, you know what the total votes are, you see what the percentage is for that group of the whole, take that times the number of total delegates you have. In our case it was 12, and we ended up with 3 and a fraction, 3 and a fraction, and 4 and a fraction for the various groups. So you got 3 delegates and alternates for sure. You got 3 delegates and alternates for sure in another group. And then you got 4 delegates and fractional in the third group. That's only 10 whole delegates. So what happened was the leaders came up here and started talking about, well, what do we do with the fractional delegates? 2 in this case, right? Because those were not the whole numbers. And so they worked out amongst themselves how to allocate the remaining 2 delegates and 2 alternates to the CD and to the state. So they really had 8 positions to deal with, okay? And so they worked that out, and then once they worked that out, how many whole delegates and alternates they were going to have, they came back to you and asked you who's going to be a delegate, who's going to be an alternate to put on that slate. Okay, if I was representing a candidate at one of these caucuses, I would have my slate worked out already pretty much. So that, and you have to look at it under various scenarios. You might say, I've got a slate of 12 for my candidate. Well, if you don't win, if you don't get 50% plus 1, you're not going to get all 12. But at least you know 12 people who are willing to fill the other slots, right? So I would recommend that you have that coming in. We didn't know that here because you didn't know who your candidate or what your color was. But they worked that out, all right? And so now they have developed the slate, that the slate's going to be offered to the caucus to send these slates to the Congressional District Convention and the State Convention. So I'm going to ask them to name those folks. Dan?
Okay, initially I think we were going to talk to how we got through the process. Would you do that?
Well, I just did that.
Okay.
I think I did.
So our 7 names are Jamie, Vicki, Mary, Dennis, Jenny, I guess. Jennifer, Mary, and Brandon for our delegates. And you want our alternates too?
Well, you have delegates to what?
Okay.
You have how many delegates?
Okay, our delegates, those delegates are going both to the CD and to the state. All of these are the same people. They're going. Those 7 are going to
You have
CD.
Your group has 7.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Because we have 3 down here.
Okay. Let's use that as a reconciling item. So you go ahead with your give the slate there.
Okay, we decided to do opposite, so different ones. So our congressional is Hannah, Ron, and Michelle. Oops, that's all. Jerry, Janet, and Ellen are CD.
Okay.
And to our state were Harvey, John, and Melissa, and then.
Those are the delegates to the CD and to the state convention.
So our alternate CDs, Hannah, Ron, and Michelle, and state, we actually had 4 because that was one of our negotiations to get that extra alternate. Kathy, Joe, Trey, Carol, and Janet.
Okay, and that is for the yellow candidate. So you have 3 delegates to the CD, 3 delegates to the state, three alternates to the CD and 4 alternates to the state for the yellow.
That's
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna have to stand next to you so Dave can get this, so,
Okay, is that on?
yes.
Is that on? Okay, so just for practice, we did not list the specific alternates because everybody's gonna do the same, just make it quicker. So we ended up with 4, and with one, was the fractional one? Yeah, 3.8,
Yeah, so you had 3 there.
3.8, 3 and then
One
1.
delegate to the state.
And 1 delegate to the state. So we ended up with Rhonda, Gary, Steve, and Lana for the state, Gary, Rhonda, Jonathan, Steve for the CD, and we're just assuming that just to speed it up, that everybody's alternate for those 2.
So what Kay's saying is she has 4 delegates to the CD, 4 delegates to the state, and you've named those. And if you're a delegate to the state, you're an alternate to the CD. So it's the same set of names, okay?
Just for instance, today, that's, yeah, not written in.
So you would need to have those complete names at your CD and present it accordingly, and you're gonna have the name, address, email, cell number, et cetera, so that they can be contacted. That won't become public information, but we need to have that. So,
So we started with 3.8, but when they did the fractional
Why
math,
did he list 7? Is that?
well,
we had 8.
so far, we're just talking about the delegates now. We have 3, 4,
4,
7.
7.
So that leaves us how many from 12? Right, and so 5 would be the Jackson County number.
Okay.
5 delegates to the CD and 5 delegates to the state.
Okay, so the first 5, you need the names?
Yes,
Okay, so the names would be, and we're doing the names as they appear on her list, by the way. Damie, Vicky, Mary, Dennis, and Jennifer. And
Okay.
that's our 5 names.
okay, and they're the same
They're the same going on the state.
going to the state and the CD. So it's the same folks. You can do that. Kay had entirely different names between the 2, so you can do that too. They just need to be qualified. And then your alternates are,
The alternates are Scott, Heidi, Josh, John, and Becky.
I have a question. Because we got an extra alternate to the state, that means one of them loses out.
Yeah, we don't have any alternates.
Okay.
So, 4 alternates, okay, there you go, see, we're all learning. So, all right.
But I went
So y'all
back to
understand
the-
kind of what they did there? So in some cases, and this is just a guess, so if you picked up extra alternates, or you picked up extra delegates, essentially if you're, and I don't know exactly how they did it, but just hypothetically, so let's say I'm in one of the groups, and I know that my candidates might not survive all the way to the state convention. But if they stand a chance of surviving, they need to have a good showing at the congressional district convention, right? So I might choose to take a delegate now for something where I know I will have a chance to influence and give that delegate up for the state, because I may not. And if their candidate drops out and doesn't, then I can go back to those people and try to get them to come back over, because they're unbound. You see what I'm saying? So there's a strategy there that if you're in touch with your people and you're in touch with the candidate, that you can work with. Does that make sense?
And
Strategic.
Can I add one more thing?
Sure.
Yeah, because this was reality practice here, we were always playing the parts, and it was really eye-opening, because it's gonna be tough to get this done in 30 minutes. Because each person came up with another scenario, it changed it, and we had to renegotiate that. So unless you've got this all worked out pretty well ahead of time, I don't see in many cases how we could do it in 30 minutes.
And I would say too, you need to, whoever is in your candidate group they need to understand the numbers ahead of time. Because they shouldn't be going in blind like some of us were. And so, anyway, make sure that whoever you elect to send there has thought through that, and you need to talk through that as a candidate group to make sure you understand how that will work.
And understand it, and, you know, Nick has said this several times, I've said it, just said it. Have a plan walking in the door. Is your plan gonna change? More than likely. You walk in without any plan. You walk in just, well, I'm here, here's Donnie. Yeah, it's not gonna go well, right? So you wanna walk in with a plan, walk in with at least a partial slate, if nothing else. And if you've been through here now, so you've seen how this plays out. So you get the thought process you need to have as you walk in, and you'll be better off than, you know, some of us have had private conversations with kind of the radical fringe that will walk in, they don't understand and they don't know, and they're gonna come in and try to bowl their way through, and the rules are set up, it doesn't really work that way. Now, they may still win the day if they have the numbers, because it's just math, right? At the end of the day, it's just math. But have a plan.
Right, and so now we know what our delegate slate looks like, right? And so, all in favor of the delegate slate as presented, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. So we've elected our delegates. Thank you, leaders. And we will help you with a formula that helps allocate the whole delegates and the fractional delegates, because that was really the challenge, is the fractional delegates. So, and designation of a delegate ultimately must include each individual's full name, phone number, email address, and addresses as that individual is registered to vote. So that's what the MRP needs. That's not public record. This is not a public event. You can control access to this.
Yeah, so just one thing on that, the state committee did vote and discuss. So if you're a delegate to the state convention, congressional convention, national convention, all we're going to release, because some of that can be released, you know, we're going to get press wanting to know, candidates are going to want to know. They're going to get a name and congressional district. That's all they're going to get. They're not going to get your home address, your phone number, or your email. We have too many problems in 16 with people being bullied and threatened and all that. We're not going to do that to protect you. So just so you understand that. The other thing is that it's a party, and we're a private entity. But I would caution you, if press shows up to your caucus, set up a designated area and let them observe. They can't walk around and just, oh, what do you think? You know, you can distract them from doing that. So listen, in 2012, I was a township committee man. I ran a caucus. So if you remember 2012, it was Rick Santorum and Mitt Romney. Okay, so I was on the Santorum team. And Santorum, on March 17th of 2012, which is the day of the caucus, was at my caucus that day. Which means I had way more people than you can imagine, which is kind of what you're going to be expecting. I had a national press gaggle that was following them along. I had to keep control. And I told them, I said, listen, you can all be over here, and you can take all your pictures and do whatever, but you can't interrupt the proceedings, and they all followed the rules. I didn't have any problems with that. And it was tough. And so I would caution you, has anyone ever seen, like in St. Louis County, you have Elliot Davis and he does the "You Paid For It" skit? Have you ever seen that? So this guy is like a bulldog. And the worst image is always the elected official who's walking away from him. Don't walk away. You have the truth, you're running an honest process, you have nothing to fear, just let them observe. Okay?
Yeah, Gary.
Just to clarify, the only people that can come into this are people who are registered, and as you were just describing, the press.
Well, it's only the people who can vote are registered voters, sign the pledge, and have that ID. Now, you can designate a place for guests, the press, I would make them clearly segregated from the voting members, because how many voting members you have on the floor is key to how you allocate the delegates.
I guess the point of my question is, observers?
Yeah, it's at the discretion of the chair. So the question is can you have other people in the caucus? And to observe, not to participate. Only registered voters can, and people who declare themselves Republicans. But if I want to have, if I've got high school kids who want to observe the process, well, am I going to kick them out? No, I'm not. If someone wants me to be chair, no, in advance, I'm not going to. I wouldn't kick out high school kids who want to observe. I wouldn't kick out the press because I'm confident in the process I'm going to run, right? So hopefully you all should feel the same way. But that would be at the discretion of the chair, and actually be the discretion of the temporary chair, because you're going to make that decision at the beginning of the proceedings.
Right. That's right.
So why not just err on the side of caution, have enough sergeant arms there to handle whatever situation may arise?
You can do that. I mean, that's, it's your caucus. I mean, it has to be conducted according to the rules, but it's the county caucus. And you're electing your delegates and alternates. So if you need, you know, I've had deputies armed in my caucuses before. I didn't have to use them, but that's because he was there and armed, you know. If you
you know,
want
back to
peace,
the,
prepare for war.
yeah, exactly. Be a warrior in a garden, not the other way around. So, yeah, so listen, for the county chairs, all right, so, Brett, if you're county chair, raise your hand. Hired, you can't hide. So listen, be prepared, right? Work with your local police, right? Work with your local press if it comes to it. Have people that can fulfill the role, right? So, you know, listen, I love Nick and he's a good guy and he's a great Republican. I'm not gonna make him the bouncer of my event. That's not where Nick's forte is, right? Nick's, and I'm not picking on him, but
Yeah, he is.
I pick on everybody. I was talking to, I was telling Miles this last night, if I don't like you, I won't, if I like you, I'll pick on you. If I don't like you, But anyways, but you know what I'm saying? So think those things through. Figure out who in your county and who's involved with you, or maybe somebody new, who can, be the sergeant at arms, who can be a teller. Pick someone who's good at math. Think of those things that you need. As I said earlier about the chair position, you may be the permanent chair, or the county chair, and you may be great at your job, but standing up in front of this many people for 3 hours just ain't your bag. Then pick someone who's got a voice and can command the attention of people around you to do that, and who understands the rules. But listen, if you read through this, we have been very prescriptive, more so than at any other time. There's a lot left to your judgment, because, listen, I know this. Jefferson County, where I just moved to, is very different than St. Louis County that I just moved out of, and they're neighboring counties. So I'm going to assume that Jackson County is going to be very different than St. Louis County, or Jefferson County, or Camden County, or Newton County. So it's up to you.
Jenny.
Ask a question, please. One of the county chairs that I was contacted about this one, since she's already been to another one, but she was concerned about, are we gonna get some training about how to handle the platform card for the meeting?
That's where we're going to next. So the question is, how do we handle the platform process? So I think it's appropriate. Jennifer.
If I could add, and I'm only saying this because I've kind of heard from some of you that you're new, haven't done this before. In the last thing I would point out in terms of preparation is you're the chairman. Get your delegates. You know who you're going to want, who's going to vote for the delegates you want to send to national. So you want to vote delegates to the state and the CD who are going to vote the way you want them to. You have that opportunity to start filling out those delegate lists and alternate lists now.
Yeah, that's a good point. The other thing I would add to that is this. If you are a county chair, I won't make you raise your hand this time. If you're a county chair and you wake up tomorrow, next week, January 1st, whatever, and you're like, oh my God, I don't understand this. Miles, who's the executive director of the party, you all have his email, it's on the green sheet. Email Miles, He will get you an answer. If he doesn't have the answer, he will call me, and we will work it out, and we will get it to you. Listen, I'm volunteering, I'm traveling all over the state doing this because I'm bought into making sure that this process works, because if it doesn't, everyone's gonna blame me anyways. So, but I truly want you to have a successful caucus, a productive caucus. I hope the legislators in the room don't be mad at me, but I hope we never have to do it this way again. But at the very least, if this is successful and we do have to do it again, then we have something to build on. So I am committed to helping you. I can't be everywhere on March the 2nd. I will be in Jefferson County on March the 2nd, but I will have my cell phone on me. You need to reach me. I'm going to ask you to go through Miles to do it because he needs to know what the questions are, and then if he needs to get to me. And if I can, I'm committed to going. I'm going all different kinds of places. If I can come out to where you are, I will. This is on the other side of the state for me, so it means I got to spend the night. So you got to put me up somewhere, and you got to feed me. So.
Yes, one more question before we go to the platform.
I want to go back to something you said, because I expect to get questions from voters about why we're doing this. Like you had mentioned that there was a caucus in 2012, but I thought we had a primary in 2012. So what's a little bit of the...
Yeah, so we have a presidential preference primary. We've done that for...
The question is,
yeah.
Why are we having to do it this way?
Right, so why are we here? So as Nick said at the very beginning, a couple hours ago, it seems already, and the election has to be authorized by the legislature. Okay, and when the election integrity bill was passed a couple sessions ago, they took out the presidential preference primary. So.
And by the way, the Democrats put that amendment on in the Senate, so don't blame the Republicans.
So what tends to happen is that the legislators, if it's not in statute, sometimes forget that there's another way something can exist. And it's I'm not picking on them, it just happens, right? I worked for the legislature at one point, I know this. They forget that the party has the ability to make certain rules wherever they don't prescribe something. And so in 2016, as I said, we tied how we allocated our national delegates to the presidential preference primary. And the way that worked when 16 and 20 was, if a candidate won the state by a true majority, 50% plus one, they got all of our delegates. And if they did not, then it was winner take all by congressional district, and they were bound based on that outcome. So the legislature, some people didn't think that, they thought it was just an $8.5 million beauty contest that wasn't tied to anything. And so they said, well, we'll save the $8.5 million and not do it. Not realizing that we had a rule that affected it. So at the end of this last session, I know Nick and Miles and the previous executive director, myself, others, even Russ Carnahan, the chair of the Missouri Democrat Party, lobbied to have them put it back in. The House, Representative Buckhead Courtway's here, she was involved in it, Dan was involved in it, they tried to get a measure across the ballot, they crossed the finish line in the House, they did, it went to the Senate, and it just, so I pick on the Senate every once in a while, and when I worked in the House, we said the Senate's where good bills go to die. That's not always the case, obviously, but it was in this case. So it is what it is. But so in 2012, we had the same problem. The Senate didn't pass the presidential preference primary bill. And so at the last minute, we had to conduct a caucus. And I mean, it was at the last minute. And so we were scrambling to come up with rules and everything else. And we ended up just leaving it to everybody to do on their own. And it was a disaster. Pretty much.
Yeah. The election by the people is paid for by the state. Okay, so it takes the action of the General Assembly to do that. There is no authorizing action on the books in the statutes, and so that's why we're doing it this way, and we're making lemonade out of this lemon.
And the presidential preference primary is another separate election than the primary in August,
Right.
correct?
That's correct.
And
So
it's the Missouri Clerks Association that didn't want to do that extra
Yes.
election.
Yes,
in
thank you very
24.
much.
well, there was many of them that felt that way, and they prevailed. But this is only for the president. Okay, all the statewide offices, all your General Assembly members, they're going to be by vote of the people in August. Okay, so that's not changing. But let's move on to the platform. Now, And I'm hoping to have this wrapped up by 12:30 or thereabouts, so keep with us here, because we're gonna walk all the way through to the national convention.
Yeah, because I'm out of Mountain Dew, so.
And we're gonna walk through the November election, but, because that's really why we're here, so. The platform discussion, all right, so there's a platform discussion, and the way the platform works, if you look at the dates here, you can see when that information has to be at various stages, but in your county caucus, you will discuss the platform. The platform will be available. I've named the platform committee, and these are members of the platform committee, and we have the chairwoman here today. Kay Hofflander is the chairwoman of the platform committee, and I know David Portway is here. David Leitner, the member of the platform committee. Let's see, is there anybody else? I don't think there's anybody else here, but there's 11 members. Miles and I serve as ex officio members. They will draft the platform. And the deadline to have the platform to you is February 23rd. That's the deadline. That doesn't mean it's going to be that day. It might be that day, but it will be no later than that. And that platform will be available at all your county caucuses. Okay, so if the county caucus then wants to make changes to that platform, this is where you do it. You don't have to. You don't have to propose changes to the platform, but if you want to propose changes to the platform, then you need to do that in this section, and that would be subject to Robert's Rules of Order. Okay, and then any proposed changes will then be addressed at the congressional district conventions. So if you've got to change, any sort of change to the platform, that needs to be approved at the county level and go to the CD convention for whatever congressional district you're in. In my case, or Newton's case, it would be the 7th. In Jackson County, it would be 5, right?
4, 5, 6.
Okay, so there you go.
Jackson, Clay, a couple of other counties have split districts.
Yes.
So when this we clarified in an earlier training session, the platform proposal is by congressional district within your caucus.
That's right.
You don't, as in our case, we wouldn't vote as a full caucus, yea or nay, on a platform amendment. We would vote, if Gary proposes it in congressional district 5, just congressional district 5 delegates vote on it.
Right.
If somebody else wants to propose it for 6, that's
Right,
fine.
and I know
It's my
that-
district.
That's why St. Louis County is dividing by congressional district in part. Okay, so if you got to change the platform, it goes to the congressional district. Doesn't go directly to the state convention, it goes to the congressional district. If the congressional district adopts it, then it goes to the platform committee. Then the platform committee presents the platform to the state convention for an up or down vote. Okay, and so the platform will not be amended on the floor of the state convention. However, you can add resolutions to that will be subject to being adopted by the state convention and will be published with the platform. But that's the process that we go through. So your caucus, if you've got changes to the platform, you need to get that to not only the state committee, you need to get that to the CD chair so that can be included as an item at the CD convention. So that's the platform process. Melissa?
Will we hand out the platform that you send us at our caucus?
Yes.
Do we have copies for
Yes.
that for everybody?
Yeah, you should do that. Well, we'll work with you on that as we can, but yeah, that's a challenge, yes.
Our county has a platform,
Mhm.
and we are needing to talk about what we want to suggest to the platform,
To the platform,
to the,
to the state platform committee.
I mean, is that the way we do it? Or I guess we would present them to our congressional district.
Well, I would talk to the chairwoman and see how she wants to receive that
Okay.
information. But the process is, I mean, the formal process is you go to the CD convention to get it moved on. But the platform committee is going to draft the platform. And the platform, the current platform, which is a very good platform in my estimation, is available right now at mogop.org. Okay.
Nick, I'll just try to answer that real quickly if I can. The process is, as he already described, if you want to add something or change it, it's gotta go to your county first. So yes, you can talk, feel free to talk to anybody that's on the committee about it. But the process is it's gotta start at your county, be approved there, and then go on.
Right, right. So if you want to affect any change in that draft platform, it has to come from your caucus to the CD convention. It has to be adopted by the CD convention, and then it goes back to the platform committee. That's the formal process. Chandler, do you have the other mic?
It's up there.
David
And
has it,
Nick,
okay.
and the
All right.
informal would be to just contact somebody you know on the committee. You could do that. Anybody's welcome to do that. But we can't really
So
go
the-
about it until it gets through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These members are on the committee, and of course, they would entertain talking to you, I imagine, but the formal process, if you want to get it adopted, is get it from your county to the CD convention, then to the platform committee.
And aren't you saying, get it from your county March 2nd, when you have this, it's got to go through that, doesn't it, March 2nd?
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's part of the agenda. The platform discussion is part of the agenda. So, once you've gone through that, through the platform discussion and any amendments, then you adjourn. And then by 5 o'clock on that day, we need to know, at a minimum, who your delegates and alternates are and who they're pledged to for the state convention and the CD convention. So like we reported up here, it would be good to know their names, but we don't necessarily need the names, addresses, all of that. We gotta have that soon, but not that day. What we need to know that day is, let's say it's the county of Newton. In our instance, what was it? 3, 3, and 4? 3, 3, or 4, 3, and 7. Anyway, Trump 5, DeSantis 3, Haley 4. That's what we need to know, and ideally going to the state convention and to the CD convention. We're going to aggregate all of that from 115, at least 115 caucuses, and have that available. And this will should be able to impact Super Tuesday, because we're one of the few things happening that weekend. We may be the only thing happening of a Republican nature that is purely dedicated. So we need you to get that information to us. And we'll have the ability, Miles and Chandler and Trey are working on how to get that reported to us in an electronic manner, but we need it in whatever manner we can get it. All right. So then the caucus would be adjourned. I just want to stress this to you. Let's do this by 5 p.m. That's 6 p.m. Eastern time, okay? So we want to be able to announce that and not be fooling around with it. So these are all the dates that you've looked at. It's on our sheet. Report your totals. Additions and changes, so March the 2nd, that you want to report the totals. By March the 5th, you need to get your additions to the platform and documents from the caucus. You need to report that out. So that's the secretary and chair need to get that done and to us. So that's not a long time. If you've got a challenge for delegates, let's say it didn't all work out as smoothly as it did here, and there's no, that slate's bad, that was improperly presented, et cetera. Well, that's the credentials committee, so you need to get, if you've got challenges to the delegates coming out of your caucus, then they need to be brought by the 12th. By March the 17th, we need to know the location of the CD conventions. March the 20th, and the formal announcement of that will be on our website. The convention location will be posted by the 20th. April the 6th is the CD convention. There's going to be 8 of those, all right? David you'll be calling that, and do we have any other CD chairs here? Yeah, so Kathy Jo Lloyd will be calling that, as I think you've already informally called that, but we don't have it on the website. So that's where your CD delegates will be going. So we notify the time and the place. The recommended state platform amendments, the CD chair. So if the CD passes any of those platform amendments and they come forward from the counties, those will need to be to the state committee for the platform committee by April the 9th. So all these dates are on this small type sheet. April the 20th, that's 15 days before the state convention, you can contest delegates to that. So you have 2 possibilities to contest. CD convention, right? State convention. So if the caucus is not done correctly, then the credentials committee would need to act on that, make that determination. And then May the 4th, the state convention will be at the Expo Center in Springfield. We have that, we have the entire Expo Center. Miles took care of that shortly after he joined us. And we have the whole center for all day Friday and Saturday. Is that right? Okay, so we will need some help in that. Miles, you want to talk about that briefly?
Yeah, so the state convention, as Nick said, will be in Springfield. It will be kind of a 2-day event. You'll come in probably Friday. We're working on, maybe we have something Friday evening if we're lucky enough to get one of the nominees or somebody to come in and do an event for us. And then you'll be there all day Saturday. So it will be in Springfield. And remember, when you're telling people, there's going to be cost. So it's going to be, it's going to cost you $200 for the state convention. So we don't want 500 people not showing up. So make sure you inform them before so they know the cost.
All right, so you're going to have probably a hotel room if you're staying over one night. There'll be food, but there may be a fundraiser the night before. It just kind of depends on what develops and what kind of candidates are still active. So that is happening on May the 4th. And that's where we will elect more national delegates. So the CD convention, if you flip over to the big type, this tells you what you're doing at those. We're electing 3 delegates by name at the CD convention, designating 2 more, and then we're naming all 27 I believe it is, at the state convention. And then our 54 delegates will be named and going to the state convention and bound. Just like the process we went through here, we're going to do it similar. I don't know if we'll be able to do a standing division or not, but we will have that process under control. So, why are we really doing all this stuff? I mean, there's a lot of process. It's kind of, I know it's fun for everybody in this room. I hope it ends up, hope it ends up being fun. Otherwise, after you've been through the whole process, but this country needs a change in leadership. So we need to be sure that whoever the Democrat is, if it's Joe Biden, for sure we need to replace him. Well, he's constitutionally disqualified, but behind the scenes, hard to say.
He didn't say Barack.
So, these people that are coming to all of these events, enlist them, even though you may have differences, in the end, we need to be coming together for the Republican candidate. Chris, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I wanted to say one thing about that. We tend to be very ideological about how we support candidates for president, and I get it. Democrats are considerably more pragmatic than we are, and they're more logical than we are when it comes to that part of it. It's ironic to me that they're so illogical and when it comes to policy, but when it comes to elections, they understand that the acquisition of power is a 24-hour-a-day, 365-day-a-year project. We tend to think of it in election cycles every other year. They're ready. They are more prepared than we are. They are more in touch with what they need to do than we are. No matter who puts on the ballot, every Democrat will vote for them. So remember, at the very beginning, the first thing that we want to do is be relevant. What was the second thing? Reduce complaints to the Credentials Committee. The less complaints that we have, the more likely that people who walked out of your caucus thought it was fair, whether they won or lost, and had a decent experience because they were treated well. I don't care who wins the day. Don't treat them badly, right? We have to figure out how to come together because let me tell you, the enemy is not going to be at your caucus. The enemy is not in this room, right? So, you know, I took a lot of heat because I was a Cruz delegate. And when Cruz dropped out of the race, I very publicly stated my support for Donald Trump. And a lot of Cruz people got very mad at me. And I said, I don't care. What I care about is winning in November. Because every day of the week and twice on Tuesday, any Republican will be better than any Democrat for what we need to have to accomplish to restore our republic. So please think of that on March the 2nd when you're dealing with people who disagree with you. Remember what the real goal is.
Right. So what we're here to do is stick to our principles and win in November. So one thing that's new this time, relatively new, is no excuse absentee voting. Okay, we've gone through the primary and we know we have statewide primaries, right? October the 22nd, that's the first day for no excuse absentee voting. The RNC program is Bank Your Vote. Okay, that's what they're calling it. But pretty much in Missouri, you can walk into the county clerk's office or wherever your polling designated election authority has for a polling place, and you can vote absentee. You don't have to have an excuse. You know, I'm not going to say I'm going to be out of town, that sort of thing. So encourage people in your county to go ahead and bank their vote. Okay, and then on election day, instead of them having to go vote, they can help you turn people out to vote. And they can help turn people out to vote from October the 22nd through November the 5th. Nothing wrong with going and voting early. If you know who you're voting for, and by that time, you should know. The primary's over. we're gonna elect Republicans. Any Republican, as problematic as some may be, is gonna be a whole lot better than any Democrat. That's the way it is. We're the party of life. The Democrats are not the party of life. They won't even allow a discussion of life. So if you believe in that issue, any Republican is gonna be better. If you've got a problem with the Republicans, this is where to take care of that. It's in the primary. And, you know, we got lots of opportunities at this time. So, but we do need to pull together. And that's why we're doing this, you know. We're gonna stick to our principles, we're gonna promote the Republican principles, and we're gonna win in November.
Just wanted to add a couple things just real quick. At State Lincoln Days, I will be going over the same slide deck that you saw today. We're not gonna do a mock caucus, but we will do caucus training at Lincoln Days, which I believe is here in Kansas City this year. So I'll be back. And then if time allows and we can work it out, I will also be doing a precinct captain training session. If we can work it out, we'll be doing that. I've done that over on the other side, east side of the state a couple times. Some people have gotten some benefit from it. So we'll try to do that. But please, if you have questions, like I said, you wake up tomorrow, January 1st, March the 1st, and you got questions, reach out to Miles, and we'll get your question answered. And we will have a hotline that day, so you can reach out. So please, don't let there be a lot to go to the credentials committee. We can do this.
Okay, Chris, thank you. So could you trade your lapel to Darren there? I've asked Darren to come and talk to us about unity and constitutional principles and so forth. Darren Chappell is from District 137, which is in Greene County. That's where Springfield is. And prior to his time in the legislature, Darren served as the city administrator for Chillicothe, Bolivar, and Seymour, so he's been around a little bit. He's also a former Missouri State University adjunct professor on the topics of the Constitution and the impact of the foundational documents of American government, public budgeting, and finance at the graduate level, which we really need to get the national finances in order. There's no question about that. There is also a veteran of the U.S. Navy and the Army Reserve, so thank you, veteran, for your service. And Darren, address us for a little bit.
Well, is this on? No? Just hold this down. Okay. Well, that was entirely my privilege and honor. And my son is actually the 7th consecutive generation to serve in the military. He's in the 4th Infantry Division, and he's a sergeant, and he's in South Korea. And as much as we hated to see him go to South Korea for a year, with everything going on, I kind of hope he stays there for a while. We got out of Afghanistan and then got into Ukraine and Taiwan and Israel, and any one or all of them may be important, but 3 at one time once we've given away all of our ammunition to other purposes. Makes me a little nervous. They may even have to call out the old Fat Boy Brigade, in which case I'm ready to go, but we're in big trouble if I have to show up, that's for sure. The only thing about it is that I'll be grouchy, and so it'll be quick. And I appreciate your comments about the national budget. We've got problems here at home too, however, and we need to work on that. And we need to work on making sure that whatever happens at the ballot box this next year, specifically relating to any constitutional provisions that may be added, we need legislators who are willing to stand up and who are willing to look for solutions to problems that are caused by individuals who don't know, don't care, and don't care that they don't know, but they went and voted anyway. We put a 39-page marijuana petition into the Missouri State Constitution, right next to bingo.
Right. All right.
It's so dumb it makes your hair hurt, but that's the process as of right now. And what we have to have is we absolutely have to have a supermajority in the House and in the Senate. We need a real solid Republican governor. We need a real solid Republican lieutenant governor, an attorney general, individuals who are willing to take whatever is thrown at us and stand the test as we are called upon to serve, every single one of us.
Yes.
Full disclosure, I taught political science. I think I'm the only practicing political scientist in the House and probably in the Senate as well. And that makes me sometimes wax professorial, and I'm trying real hard not to do that today because we're short on time. But just for the interest of brevity and full disclosure transparency, politically, I'm a little to the right of Attila the Hun. I'm that guy. And I'm that guy because I believe in the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Missouri. And I believe that every single bill that is offered and every single bill that is passed ought to be in compliance with those two documents and be for the public good and not expand the role of government in the lives of individuals of our state. Now, if a bill meets all of those requirements, I'm a yes. And if they don't, I'm a no.
Yay! Thank you.
Well, I'm not running up here. Y'all can't vote for me. But thank you. This is not a campaign speech. I just want you to know where I'm
Tell
coming
your
from.
friends.
And I have voted no when almost every other Republican on the floor has voted yes.
Yeah, we know.
And I have gotten in trouble. One time I got called up to the dais. And Mr. Speaker, and by the way, if you're on Facebook, don't believe everything you read, by the way, trashy stuff. Not everything that got reported out of Thursday is true, and I'm just going to tell you that and leave it at that. But the speaker called me up there and he said, Darren, I need you to be more of a team player on this. Well, I'm sorry, the thing that we were voting on was unconstitutional, and I couldn't vote for it. He said, I just need you to be more of a team player. And I said, well, Mr. Speaker, with all due respect, I was being a team player when I didn't stand up and say how dumb this was. So I'm not against us internally arguing amongst ourselves. And I'm not against standing up for your principles, whatever the consequences may come. And I'm not against us stepping on each other's toes once in a while. Now, we need to be careful to try not to ruin the shine while we do that. But can you do me a favor and just take the word rhino out of your mouth, please?
Yes.
I'm all the way over here. I'm all the way over here. And there are people with whom I disagree vehemently. But if I think they're a rhino because they disagree with me, do you not suspect just for a moment that they think I'm a rhino because I dared to disagree with them? If the definition of rhino functionally is everybody who disagrees with me, that's only plausible if I'm the standard of right and wrong. And I'm not the standard of right and wrong. I know me. I don't have it all figured out. I know my weaknesses. I recognize that I've made mistakes. I've seen me do it. So who hasn't? And I've studied and taught this for 30 years. This is my first session in the House. I'm a freshman. And it's my first session. But I've taught the Constitution for 30 years. I've lectured on the Constitution in the National Archives with the documents right there. So anybody here or on the floor of the House or in the chamber of the Senate, anybody that wants to come debate with me about the Constitution, that's fine. I'm easy to find. But just because you and I disagree doesn't mean that you're not really a Republican. And the reality of it is, if I could have nobody but people who agree with me running for office, that would make my job in the Capitol building a whole lot easier, as long as you don't mind us losing every single election from here on out. We have to be a Big Ten party or we don't get the majority. And then it's up to us, Dan and Cindy and Danny was here earlier and others, then it's up to us to argue amongst ourselves to try to get done what we can get done. But if we're not in the majority, I can tell you what we're going to get done, and that's nothing. My dad served in the 70s, and they were in the tiniest of minorities back then, the Republican Party was. And his stories are about how inconsequential his time was in the House of Representatives. And he's jealous because I, as a freshman, first term, I actually get to speak on the floor occasionally. He never got called on by anybody. We cannot let it go back to where the House and the Senate in the state of Missouri is overrun and overruled by Democrats on all things. And the primaries, let's passionately support our preferred candidates. But the next day, we got to support our candidate. We got to support our party. And, you know, when it comes to the presidential deal, you know, how many years in the past, some of us longer than others, but how many years have we looked at candidates of either or both parties and said, seriously, this is the best we got? 300 million people and this is what we got? Really? But at the end of the day, what Nick said is right. The worst Republican is better than the best Democrat. And as long as the Constitution reads the way that it does, we will always be a two-party state. Now, it may be that the parties change, and it's not the same two parties, but there will always be but two primary parties in the United States of America until the format of the Constitution is altered, and that's not going to happen anytime soon. So all I can tell us is this: fight for your perspective, your principles, your candidate, all the way up to that caucus. Then come together and treat each other with common decency and respect. Begin every single contemplated question with this internally: what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? What if there's something I don't understand? What if there's something I've missed? Surely I haven't got it all figured out. Surely I'm not the perfect one, because if you are, by the way, you ought to be the candidate running, right? Surely there's something I could learn today. Treat everybody with common decency, respect, question our own positions to make sure that we're right, and then once we are, nominate the best possible candidate we can from the options that are viable, and then the next day, we are Republicans.
That's right.
Get that rhino word out your mouth, and stop calling the other side crazies. It's time to come together because our country depends on it, and so does our state. We need your help. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you, Dan. All right, so for the first time since the 1860s, we control every statewide elected office in Missouri. Yeah, so that's a good thing. We have lots of primaries coming up. The only elected incumbent running statewide in 24 is Josh Hawley. But you got everything but the state auditor up.
And libertarians.
Okay, so like Darren says, support your candidate, work for them, be sure they're the right choice, work for them through the primary. But after the primary, we need to come back together. And the best way to get to know your candidates is to have them come to your county committee meetings, make opportunities for them to speak in public, to the public, and let the county committee promote those, put those things on. That's the way you'll get to know your candidate and know if they're the best Republican running in the primary. So, like I said, when I started this, we owe the veterans great debt of gratitude, and that's really the reason we're here and able to do it. But if we want to continue exercising our freedom and not have the deep state, however you want to define that, you know it's active. Okay, it's active. We need to take back the federal government. We need to hold on to the state of Missouri, the majorities that we have. Maybe we could elect a couple more Congress people. Is that going to happen in CD5?
Yes.
Go for it. And that will happen someday with a Republican, with the right candidate. And I hope that's in '24. So, thank you all for coming. Thank you for your dedication to this process, and let's win in November.